It has been a hot minute since I have done a food prep video. I used to do those pretty frequently here on my channel, but that was like a couple of houses ago. So I kind of got the bug to do a little bit of food prep and actually record it. I do this sometimes, not all the time, and I wish that I did it more because it makes dinner time so much easier. Or if we choose to have a big lunch and then more of a small dinner, it makes that process easier too. Let me show you what I prepped up over the weekend that'll make meal times so much easier. I've pulled from my fridge some chayote squash, a head of cauliflower, some butternut squash from the pantry, some carrots, a couple of questionable sweet potatoes, some garlic and onion, and then I'll be using parchment on my baking sheet. Now, generally speaking, I do not do meal prepping where I have the entire meal sorted out, organized, and put together for us to just heat and eat, although there are some weeks where that would be extremely helpful. But what I like to do is make sure that a lot of ingredients that I buy are readily available for us to pull from. In the past, I've done a veggie box where I chop up a bunch of colorful bell peppers, cucumbers, celery, carrots, just like your basic raw veggie crudité almost, and leave that in the fridge. That makes lunchtime a snap. I don't need to go through and make sure that sandwiches are already built for the kids or that I've got like an entire lunch ready to heat and eat. But having those vegetables available means that we have a quick, hydrating thing to add to our plates, and I don't have to pull out a chopping board and knife every single time. But that's not what I'm doing this go around. Instead, I'm focusing on some more of the fall and winter foods that are so delicious when you roast them and have them available to just heat and reheat. They do reheat beautifully. And with this, I can just toss truly whatever is in my fridge into the mix and it's gonna taste great. I am consistently inconsistent here on my YouTube channel. However, my season of life right now is very, very full, and YouTube is a hobby, not a job or a career path for me. So I kind of pop in and out. It's like those sitcoms. The friends just pop in whenever. That's kind of how I am with my videos. But if you want to be alerted when I put out a new video, I would love to have you subscribe and hit the little bell, like all the good YouTubers say, because you're welcome here. I am not great at meal planning, meaning I don't have menus laid out for the week or for the month. I love the idea of that, and I have tried so hard to become that person, but that is just not what my brain is capable of doing. And so I've learned to accept it and move forward with my life. But having foods readily available in the fridge and just like a general idea of what I'm gonna do with something and where it's gonna go, that does help. Prepping these more difficult vegetables ahead of time simplifies and more or less expedites the dinner process or lunch even. I find butternut squash to just be time consuming to peel and chop and clean out. And they do tend to take a little bit longer to roast to the point that I prefer them to be. So doing this whenever I'm not rushed means I'm much less likely to either cut myself or hurt myself. And I like that very much. I also just love having all of this flavor. Like the time it takes to roast vegetables is not overly taxing, but if I want to have some really amazing flavor, I like to have them roasting for at least 45 minutes to an hour. That sometimes isn't possible on a weekday, so prepping it ahead really saves me that time. And then it's nice to be able to just have a side dish you just heat up, or if I'm wanting to turn this into a soup, it is ridiculously simple to pop this into my Vitamix, blend it up on the soup setting, and in about 6 minutes, I've gone from cold leftovers into hot soup. I can serve that to my girls with a grilled cheese sandwich. My husband and I can turn some low-carb egg white bread into some grilled cheeses for us. It just makes for a really delicious, flavorful, but fast meal for us.
All my veggies are here on my roasting tray. I'm gonna drizzle avocado oil and then start seasoning. I use Redmond's real salt first. That is our favorite salt and the one that I primarily use in my house. I also sprinkle on black pepper, marjoram, thyme, and rosemary. These flavors all work really nicely together, and it gives a really nice comforting fall feel. I work all of those seasonings into all of the different nooks and crannies of these vegetables, make sure everybody is all seasoned and happy before I pop them into the oven at 400 degrees for about 30 minutes, and I'll stir them up, rotate them, and go for another 30 minutes.
While having some foods prepped in my fridge is a super easy way for us to get food on the table fast, one of my favorite things to do is actually prep up some keto chows for the week. You know, just like 2 or 3 for the week. It doesn't have to be a ton in order to just have a grab and go breakfast or in order to get lunch for myself quickly. Homeschooling 3 children, plus managing our tasks and our calendar, that sometimes means I forget to feed myself. Having a few keto chows in the fridge is a super easy way. And with it now being the fall season into winter, a couple of their seasonal favorites are back in stock, available for the season, limited time only kind of a thing. And one of them is peppermint. This is, they nailed it with this one. I love peppermint flavors. And then they also have the gingerbread back in stock. And this one is so warm, and drinking this one hot is delightful. Full on delightful. They also have other seasonal favorites such as eggnog, but I think that one actually, you know what, don't hold me to it. Go check the link down in the description box below and find out if eggnog is a year-round flavor now. I feel like it might be. I do have some of those actually as well. Not in this box. What box do I have them in? I like to keep them organized by color. I don't know why. Okay, anywho, maybe it's in here? No. No. That only goes through orange. Anyhow, Keto Chow seasonal flavors are back in stock for peppermint and gingerbread. I think they even have gingerbread in the big 21 meal bag. I feel like this makes delicious cookies. The Keto Chow website has a ton of recipes if you are just curious about the very many different ways you could use the Keto Chow packets in baking and cooking instead of just having to mix them up as shakes all the time. I know for me, I love a quick shake. I love a quick steamer is what I call them whenever I'm drinking something that is not coffee based, but it's still hot, but it's also not tea based. Anywho, I like drinking those things, but also there are so many ways you can use the Keto Chow. Often I wind up thinking about and stressing over dinner before I've even had my breakfast, which means having breakfast options prepped and available in the fridge really comes in handy. I can pop those in the microwave, in the air fryer, shake it up if it's just a drink, and keep moving forward. And typically I think a lot better whenever I've been nourished. So I need to make sure that I have something to eat in the fridge for breakfast almost at all times, whether that's hard-boiled eggs or it's waffles and bacon, or if it's some keto chows mixed up. It does not matter what the situation is. Having a few breakfast items changes the way I approach my day. I know I've mentioned it in the past and here today that I struggle with actual dedicated meal plans, planning things out well in advance. For some reason, it just does not click with my brain, but that doesn't mean that I haven't had to try to push a little bit beyond my preferences in order to better set us up throughout the week. And I've been trying to embrace that just a smidge. We are an iOS family. All of our devices, we tend to use iOS. And so what I have gotten in the habit of using is obviously the calendar app. That has been very big so that my husband knows, the girls know, I know where we all have to be when. We have very clear understanding of what's going on with our time. But I've started also adding in the reminders app. This is something that I had not touched, and then I picked it up a few years ago, kind of dabbled with it and didn't stick with it. which was annoying because why did I put effort into it if I wasn't going to stick to it? That's an ongoing issue for me, but we're not gonna try to unpack that today. But I've started adding in a shared reminder for myself and the girls' calendar and scheduling those reminders. That has been really cool for us. I can put some different ideas for dinners and think through how are we going to manage that? Are we out of the house for dinner? Are we eating at different meal times? Are we eating a car picnic? If we're having car picnic, I only have maybe 3 to 5 different options that I can use easily and that my brain will not glitch out on. So I go through and try to put a reminder, put that date on there. If it's something that we really like, whenever I'm finished, I'll move that date instead of checking it off and put it into the future and say, okay, that worked out really well for a Thursday. We're gonna do that particular meal again, in a month on a Thursday or something to that effect. So it's been really useful. The girls have really enjoyed that. It helps them to know exactly what is expected for the day and roughly what might be for dinner. Again, I am not great at this and I have to shuffle things often because things change often. Who gets to pick up whom? Are we all going? Like all of the details, sometimes we have to be very flexible. Actually, that's not true. All too often, we have to be very flexible. And fortunately, that is something that this family is pretty all right at. Like we're pretty capable of changing on a dime, adjusting and moving forward. I do think that I have some sort of a concrete mental block to eating dinner out. I could easily solve that problem by going to a fast food restaurant. We have a Chipotle where I can find some good options for myself. We have a Five Guys where I could go get a lettuce wrapped burger or something like that. There are a couple of options, but for some reason, I have a block in my head about going and buying food when I have this refrigerator at my disposal and my pantry at my disposal, and I have the skills to build food for my family. I'm saying that I could alleviate some stress for myself, I'm sure, by going and buying dinner out or getting takeout, but there's some sort of a block in my brain about that. So I'm working with that particular block, whereas the mental gymnastics I do for meal planning or meal ideas, that's more of a short hurdle that I have to constantly jump over. So anyway.
For my make-ahead breakfast this week, I'm having the bacon that I've already made and waffles. This recipe is my keto waffles recipe, except I don't use a ton of melted butter as I have in my original recipe. I do have a video showing that original recipe if you are curious. But basically it's a dozen eggs, some of my homemade baking blend, which is a mixture of oat fiber and almond flour and coconut flour and a few other ingredients, also of which I have a recipe video for here on my channel. There's baking soda, and then I'm sorry, not baking soda, forgive me, it's baking powder. I do that regularly in my brain where I mix up the words, even though I'm grabbing the appropriate container of ingredients. And then I also add in the Snickerdoodle Keto Chow. I like this one as waffles the best. I like the mildness of the cinnamon flavor. It adds the salt that I need. It adds extra protein. And I just really like it. It's a good way for me to add some of those vitamins and minerals into my waffles. And it's a great way to use some Keto Chow in a non-shake form. So there you go. It does require me adding a lot more water when I use the Keto Chow, whereas in my original recipe for the keto batch waffles, I use a lot of butter. And so that right there, it's a difference for sure. With Keto Chow, you do need to have some fat to absorb those fat-soluble vitamins in the vitamin mix. Fortunately, the egg yolks have plenty of fat in this recipe. Also, I tend to add a little bit of butter on the top, which helps those vitamins along. Earlier, I put on an Instant Pot of bone broth using some soup bones that I have from a cow that we purchased. I am ready to pull that meat out, strain off that bone broth, and that is yet another fast dinner that I will have in the fridge ready to go.
While I don't have a ton of things prepped up for the week, those few things that are available to me are going to make kicking off dinner so much easier. Or if we're doing big lunch and small dinner, it will all be eaten. It will all be useful for making sure that we are fed. I am gonna see you in my next video.